I don't want you to be able to relate to anything that I'm about to say because I wouldn't wish the state of mind or being on my worst enemy. For those of you who don't understand what I'm about to talk about, that's okay. That's amazing, in fact. It means you don't know what it is to experience depression or to have to go through it alone. But for those of you who need this, I'm here because I know exactly what you're going through and you will make it through the other side. Trust me. Now, growing up and discovering independence brings with it a sense of realization that this world is not all rainbows and sunshine. You and I are currently in a phase in our lives where dwelling in negative thoughts is almost a part of our everyday routines. We constantly allow ourselves to be flooded by these thoughts and allow it to push us into a downward spiral, telling us that we're worthless, that we're pointless, and literally everyone around us will always be better than us. Do not, I repeat, do not let these thoughts get to you. Don't believe them. Because a thought does not reflect reality. It disappears just as quickly as it arrives, unless you fuel it. So do what I do. Instead of focusing your mind on these thoughts, focus your mind on things that matter and on things you know. You know you have hopes, dreams, and ambitions for a bright future. You know your work is far from done. You know you'll leave your mark on this planet. But what you probably don't realize is that one day, you look back at this phase in your life and laugh at the struggle that you were so unnecessarily immersed in. You too will learn what I am learning. A positive thought can be planted just as quickly as a negative one arises. And you know what's crazy? They both come from the same place, your mind. Before I tell you what depression is, let me tell you what it isn't. Depression isn't something you get one fine morning. It isn't something you catch like a cold or a fever. It doesn't mean that you're crazy. It doesn't mean that you'll never get better again. It doesn't mean that you're broken. And it absolutely is not synonymous to sadness. So now you're probably looking at me and wondering, Arya, what is depression then? Well, according to World Health Organization, or WHO, depression is a common mental disorder characterized by loss of sleep and appetite, feelings of low self-worth and guilt, loss of concentration, and feelings of tiredness. It is the leading cause as to why people visit psychologists and psychiatrists. Now, to be very honest, that's just a definition I got off of the internet. And after having dealt with the state of being for so many years and having known people who have dealt with it themselves, the subject is still largely unknown to me. But what I do know are my own experiences with it. So I remember high school, and not necessarily because it was fun or like filled with memorable stories. That's probably what my friends would tell you. All I remember are the clouds following me every day, along with this feeling of being trapped in an inescapable loop of not being myself. And that was hard, knowing that something was wrong, but not knowing what or why it was happening. I remember the depression. Or was it just a mere episode? I don't really know what it was, because there is no second opinion to it. I didn't tell anyone about it. I felt like I should keep it to myself. And throughout high school, I successfully managed to convince myself that being different meant being broken and unfixable, and no one on the face of earth could help me. And it was this thought process that made me feel like I should keep it to myself, and so I did. I dealt with it for a year, 2 years, and then one day, I became better. Or at least I thought I had. The inevitable had to happen, and so I spiraled again. And that's the thing about depression. It grips you at a time you least expect and to a point of complete hopelessness. What is important in this day and age is to truly, like I said, is truly to understand what depression is. And at that time, I was so confused. I didn't know what I was going through, and that was the worst part. And to make things worse than it already was, I'd constantly hear my friends throw the word depression around like it meant nothing. I would constantly hear them say, "Oh, I feel so depressed today." And that confused me because to them, being depressed meant being sad. And I knew that I wasn't just sad. And to make things worse, the society didn't talk about depression. I don't know whether it was for the fear of being wrong or saying something that would be offensive, but they didn't, and it didn't help me. But what the society failed to understand then, and fails to fully understand now, is that 1 in 4 people suffer from mental illness. 300 million people suffer from depression. Take that in. 300 million people. And that's a large number. And that's why I'm here today. I'm here today to make an appeal to start treating the mind like it is in fact a part of our bodies, just like our hearts. An appeal to all those of you who might feel like you have depression to talk to someone, be it a friend, a parent, a therapist, a counselor, a sibling, anyone. Or just sit down with someone and let them listen to all your irrational thoughts. This is about where you look at me like I'm crazy and say, "Arya, why would I tell anyone my irrational thoughts, let alone my parents?" I'll tell you why. After having dealt with this state of mind for so many years, I've only recently come to realize that it is okay to seek help. It is okay to not be able to face this world or your problems all by yourself. It is okay to, in fact, not be okay sometimes. And I learned that the hard way. The worst thing I did to myself was going into isolation and letting these thoughts control me because I was too scared to give voice to them. And so I'm asking you to open up and talk to someone. Sit down with someone and just let them listen to everything you have to say. Give voice to your thoughts. Lay everything down on that person you confide and let them just listen to you. Because when you keep it to yourself, it just makes things worse. And so, open up, be brave, and let someone end. And before I end, I'd like to quote Albert Ellis. "You largely constructed your depression. It wasn't given to you. And so, you can deconstruct it." Thank you. I think it's important to say that if any of you feel like you have depression, my teachers played an important role in helping me. Like, even if it wasn't depression, if it was just a mere episode, they helped me get through it. And I feel like if you can't talk to your parents, if you can't talk to your friends, there are people in Bethany that you can talk to. You can talk to your teachers, you can talk to your HODs, you can talk to anybody, and I feel you should do that. That's all I have to say.